Are you interested in building warhead artillery? If you are, you're in the right video. But what is warhead artillery? Well, it's the concept of launching a warhead or a projectile across a distance using either the artillery cannon, the railgun, or anything else using the kinetic energy of its projectile. And by doing that, we can make a cheap and effective warhead launcher that's quite fun to use. So let's tell you how to make it. This is how it works in its most basic form. And this first rover that showed up, designed by Den, was what sparked everything off. I'm sure people might have designed this in the past or there's other versions of it, but this is the first time I saw it. So the rover has an assault cannon. It then has a number of spaces, a merge block, and then two warhead columns on either side. And the idea of this is when the crew or the operator hits the timer blocking the vehicle, it detaches the merge block, separating the block so it becomes a separate grid, and fires the assault cannon at the same time. Now, while that happens, the assault cannon round almost gets stuck within these blocks or hits it and explodes, depending on what happens, and it projects the projectile across a distance. So this could work in space, this could also work on the ground, and what's interesting about this, since it's already in front of the assault cannon, you could fire this as a first sort of salvo, and then you don't have to worry about reloading it if you don't want to, because you've got an assault cannon then to use for the rest of the battle. So as you can see, it's fired, it has a decent range, and as I man it and fire it as well, you can see that this little rover requires tilting up, and it is the most simple and basic form of this contraption. Now let's talk about the evolution of this design. So Den plays with a player called Squawk, then Squawk plays with a player called Josh, all on our server, community mixing, and this is probably one of the favourite parts of Space Engineers, how a group of people get together and develop a design, and the design starts to evolve into these large artillery rovers, the ones that you saw battling on our server. So I thought the best thing to do would be to jump in a chat with them, get them to show off the designs, ask them the important questions about their weapons, and do a little bit of a commentary and breakdown of the builds, so you can build these artillery weapons for yourself.
So what did you actually learn from building the actual warheads inside here? Because so the middle one it's firing is a decoy one and not actually an explosive one.
It was originally 3 cluster rounds, but what I found out was the interiors just like aimbot each warhead and blow them up way too quickly. So I was like, yeah, let's throw a decoy one in there, cluster decoy, and then it started hitting its target more.
Okay,
like all the warheads tended to hit.
That's quite smart, isn't it, really? I like that.
It originally had a parachute on, but I thought I would need to have a loader, which I'd rather just not do. I'd rather have another team there driving a large grid or something. So I just gave up on the parachute idea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But with clusters, they do a lot of damage across the whole base. Like we tested in our base and pretty much just ripped through all the heavy armor and into our cargoes and stuff.
Can we get another shot with this one?
Alright, 3, 2, 1. Let's split again. It's actually working. Yeah, so you can see if you're following Spectre, if it splits off in loads of different rounds.
Yeah, so we're getting 2 good hits, and then
the
decoy ones are rolling.
Yeah, the ones with decoys roll, and because of it's like just takes all the targeting really. Pretty good.
Lovely. Yeah, no, I noticed not all the warheads made it either, but you still got two missiles sort of on target. So let's go to the next version. I think this was the version that most of the people saw when we were playing.
Yeah, these attacked in the first RB raid. Me and Josh both had one. Apart from his had I think more gyros, but I didn't want to add the gyros.
Let's have a look at that shell opening on this one first then, because I watched the so with this one you mounted the projectiles onto the lid as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So we would go up like that, fire, and it's got welders under them panels, so we'd fire them and
So is this? But this design is different as well, isn't it?
Yeah, these are different warheads.
Because
these are my warheads as well.
Yeah, these are Josh's shells.
Right, because if we look at them and compare them to this one, let's have a look what the change was. So it's spacing, and you didn't put the batteries on.
Yeah, because so what we found is on the server the cleanup doesn't clean as much as we thought it was on our test world of Perton. But pretty much if the main body had the decoy, and I think these aren't cluster ones either, so they're just full shells. So they've got the beacons and the batteries, so we'd have to put them on every like separate bit.
Alright, you want to pull the trigger, and we'll watch this one from outside, and then we'll watch the next one from inside.
This is where I came in to do. I sorted out the auto reload and also the payload itself having some issues with exploding midair.
Yeah, this one's very accurate. Like it literally just goes straight.
Yeah, they float really weird, don't they?
They
Almost.
do,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That. So reload's pretty quick. I mean, I know it's longer on the server because
on the server it's like we had to change through the timers because it was like took like 20 seconds to print them, especially with the lost sim speed.
Should be about every 15 seconds.
Yeah.
That's how long it takes an artillery to reload anyway.
Right, so give him another fire. Let's have a look. Yeah, the consistency of this one is really good.
Yeah, the only issue is well, especially I didn't like is if it blew up while being in there, which when I was up on a hill loading it at RB, the shell came up and I think a stray bullet hit the warheads. Like as the fired, so they would have armed. And
So
then it blew
so
up
as
in
soon
the
as
barrel.
you pull the trigger, they are armed. So they don't have any later arming. They're just so they're not on a timer or anything. They're just armed as soon as they go.
As soon as they detach from the merge block, it's the same timer system. So they'll pretty much as soon as they exit, like as soon as they leave the merge block, they'll instantly arm. Which obviously you've got like a millisecond to shoot for it to like blow up properly inside the barrel, but
And
they're
I
instantly gone.
did think about doing it on a sensor, but with the sim speed obviously getting low, sensors don't always work. So then you'll end up with lots of misfires.
See, I like these as warheads and projectiles for the pure reason that they're almost guaranteed full explosion. And is that when?
Yeah.
Oh, so that on my screen that didn't launch. Oh no, you launched the one next to it.
No, that one did launch.
Could be projected.
That should then now go down.
So moving forward with the design, Squawk and Josh decided to take a slightly different direction, and the idea with this direction was to build the whole module so that if it got damaged within a battle, they could quickly weld it back up. So from the big launcher that was a little bit complicated, they went down to these smaller launchers, Squawk going with one and Josh going with two launchers on their grid that could be welded up quickly and ready in case of incident.
In the battle with RB, mine blew up pretty much instantly, which took me like half an hour to fix it, and then it got blown up again because I think I built it wrong because I was in a rush. So I was like, well, if we just made a version where the whole barrel can be printed off even if it did explode.
Okay, so you can drop this barrel in basically. It's like a drop-in replacement.
So that's the barrel. Got some nice little lights in it as well.
It's nicely printed with the sort of Tron lighting down there. Give it a shot. Oh, so these definitely have more range. A lot more range.
Yeah, it's slightly more range, I think, but also because it's just lighter. I think it depends on the angle as well, which you can change, but it's a bit like finicky.
So how do you? So right, this is my next question: is how are you aiming these? Like, are you measuring the enemy's beacon? So if right, I'm gonna set a target up for you, and can we see if you guys can work out and hit it?
So we continued to test with Josh and Squawk to see what would happen next, and the thing I wanted to test was how exactly are they aiming. And after using this weapon for quite some time, it seemed like they knew what they're doing. They knew they had a range of around 850 meters at the maximum. The only issue was there was a little bit of deficiency in some of the shots, and I think this came into play because once that merge block was dropped and fired, it had to be hit at the exact same point every time. If it was slightly different to the left or the right, the shot would drift left or right. If it was hit too high up, the shot would then fall short. So it's an interesting one, it's a difficult one, and it's going to require a lot of science for people to further develop this. In space, though, it's a completely different cup of tea because you don't have gravity playing down the projectile. So you could fire this and it can travel as long as possible. As long as you lead the target or the target is stationary, you should be able to hit it. Where if you're on a rover, you're going to need a lot of cover to use this weapon, so people in front of you defending you. Otherwise, it's not got the best range at 850 meters. But that being said, it was super cool to have a look at, and hopefully you've learned how to build one for yourself. If you want me to go into greater detail and do a quick how to build video just like I built the turrets, let me know and we can do that perhaps in another video later on. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.